Have you ever felt like your mind never really rests? Always noticing, always connecting things others don't? You catch the slight shift in someone's tone, the hesitation in their eyes, the energy of a room before anyone speaks. You wish you could just let things go, but your thoughts keep circling back, replaying, reanalyzing, trying to make sense of it all. It's not that you want to overthink, it's that your mind is built to see deeply. You don't just move through life, you observe it. You notice the patterns between people, the meaning behind silence, the emotion beneath words. A sunset isn't just light, it's a story. A quiet pause isn't empty, it's full of feeling. You live in layers, where beauty and truth always meet. For a long time, you might have believed that made you too sensitive, too serious, or somehow different. But there's nothing wrong with your depth. You're simply tuned to a finer frequency, one that hears what others overlook. Psychologists call this high introspection, and emotional sensitivity traits that allow for empathy, creativity, and insight. Your mind doesn't race because it's broken. It moves because it's searching for understanding, for connection, for peace. Yes, it can feel heavy to think and feel this much, but that same sensitivity is also your quiet strength. You see the world as it truly is, not just what it shows, but what it means. You understand people deeply, even when you can't explain how. This is what it means to be a deep thinker, someone who doesn't move quickly through life, but deeply through it. In this video, we'll explore 22 rare psychological traits that shape how your mind sees, feels, and understands the world. The quiet strengths, the hidden struggles, and the peace that comes from finally embracing your own depth. Because maybe you were never too much, maybe you were just seeing more. Some minds don't rush through the world, they absorb it. If you've ever felt like you see too much, notice too much, and think too deeply about everything, it's not because something is wrong with you. It's because your brain is wired for sensitivity, to detect, to reflect, to connect. This kind of awareness can be both a gift and a weight. It gives you clarity, but it also makes you feel everything at once. Let's look at what makes this kind of mind so rare and so quietly extraordinary. 1. Observant awareness. The eye that sees everything. You notice the exact moment a room's energy changes, a sudden tension in the air, a flicker in someone's smile, a tone that doesn't match the words. Your mind scans constantly, picking up micro signals others miss. In psychology, it's called heightened attentional awareness, your brain's way of predicting safety through perception. But seeing this much can feel heavy. You read emotions that aren't yours and carry stories that were never meant to be held. The healing is learning to see without absorbing. Try naming what you notice. Tight smile, fast talking, probably stress, not about me. Then let it pass. You don't have to shut your awareness off, you just have to give it boundaries. Awareness without protection becomes exhaustion, but awareness with balance becomes wisdom. 2. High introspection, the mirror of the mind. You don't just experience life, you review it. You replay conversations, analyze decisions, trace emotions back to their roots. This is meta-cognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. It's what gives you insight and emotional intelligence, but it also turns inward too sharply at times, cutting you with your own reflections. The truth is, you don't need to understand yourself perfectly to be at peace with yourself. When you feel your mind looping, pause and ask, what would I say to a friend feeling this way? That simple question replaces judgment with compassion. The goal of introspection isn't self-correction, it's self-connection. Understanding yourself should feel like gentleness, not interrogation. 3. Emotional depth. Feeling in layers. You don't feel one thing at a time. You feel joy and sadness, peace and longing, love and loss, all at once. Your emotions exist in layers, shifting like the tide beneath the surface of a calm face. Psychology calls this emotional granularity, the ability to sense and label emotions with precision. This gift gives you empathy, creativity, and a heart that recognizes beauty in pain. But it also means you sometimes drown in what others barely notice. When emotion floods, try this sequence: name, normalize, nurture. Say to yourself, this is sadness and love. It makes sense. Then breathe with it for 60 seconds. When a feeling is named, it softens. When it's allowed, it passes. You were never meant to choose between feeling deeply and feeling safe. You were meant to hold both, like two sides of the same truth. 4. Meta-emotional awareness, understanding your own feelings about feeling. You not only feel emotions, you also watch yourself feeling them. You notice when you're angry, when you're anxious, when you're ashamed, as if a part of you stands quietly behind the experience, observing it. That's meta-emotional awareness, the rare ability to perceive your emotional state in real time. It's what allows you to regulate, but it can also create tension. The observer and the feeler can start to argue. Sometimes you analyze your emotions so quickly that you forget to live through them. The healing comes from allowing before understanding. When sadness rises, don't rush to label it or fix it. Let it breathe, you can reflect later. Emotions don't always need meaning, sometimes they just need space. Awareness should be a doorway, not a cage. 5. Overthinking and rumination, when thought becomes noise. Your mind loops not because it wants to suffer, but because it's trying to keep you safe. It replays every detail, what you said, how they reacted, what you could have done differently, hoping to find control through understanding. Psychology calls this rumination, the brain's attempt to solve what only calm can soothe. But thought alone can't quiet the nervous system. The body must help. When the loop starts, stop chasing thoughts and shift to sensation. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice your breath in your chest. Touch something textured near you. These physical anchors remind your mind, I'm here. I'm safe. You don't have to outthink anxiety. You can outbreathe it. When the body feels present, the mind follows. That's not escape, that's regulation. 6. High empathy and sensitivity, the emotional antenna. You can feel a room before words even begin. Its tension, its warmth, its ache. Neuroscience calls this mirror neuron sensitivity. Your brain literally reflects the emotions it sees. It's what makes you gentle, intuitive, and deeply compassionate. But it's also what leaves you drained. You don't just notice pain, you carry it. The healing lies in boundaried empathy, the ability to care without absorbing. When you feel someone's sadness, pause and remind yourself, this is theirs, not mine. You can still be kind without being consumed. Try focusing your care into one grounded act, one sincere message, one practical gesture, and let that be enough. You don't have to hold the whole world to love it well. 7. Compassion fatigue. When caring costs you. Empathy is beautiful, but it burns energy, especially when you never give yourself time to cool down. Compassion fatigue happens when your kindness runs faster than your rest. You start feeling emotionally tired, even numb, not because you don't care, but because you've cared for too long without replenishing. Think of yourself like a candle. You can't burn endlessly without pausing between flames. The healing is compassion with rhythm help. Then step back, feel, then breathe. Care, then rest. Your softness is renewable only when protected. Remember, the world doesn't need you to fix every wound. It just needs you to stay whole enough to keep shining. 8. Emotional self-reliance. strength that feels like isolation. You're the kind of person who keeps yourself together before anyone even knows you're hurting. You solve, soothe, and rebuild quietly, strong, composed, dependable. But sometimes that strength hides something tender, unspoken exhaustion. Psychologists call it emotional self-reliance, the instinct to manage pain alone, because it once felt safer that way. You don't have to unlearn your independence, only soften it. Healing starts with reciprocity in small doses. Try sharing one honest sentence a day. Today, I'm carrying this. Allow one small kindness from someone else. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's connection in motion. Every time you let someone meet you halfway, strength stops being isolation and becomes trust. 9. Need for solitude. Silence as oxygen. You need alone time the way others need air, not to escape, but to recalibrate. In silence, your emotions settle and your thoughts return to clarity. This isn't avoidance, it's regulation. Psychology calls it self-regulatory solitude, the natural process of restoring emotional balance through stillness. But solitude can quietly shift into distance if you stay too long in your inner world. The key is rhythm, alternate solitude with gentle connection. Try small steps, 90 minutes of deep work, 10 minutes of real contact. Listen, walk, breathe with someone. Solitude heals you best when it's the bridge back to presence, not the wall that keeps you away. 10. Sensory processing sensitivity when the world feels too loud. Some people don't just notice the world, they feel it. A sound, a texture, a sudden brightness, everything hits a little stronger. Psychology calls this sensory processing sensitivity, found in about 20% of people, where the brain's empathy and perception centers are more active. That's why you sense beauty deeply and discomfort quickly. The world touches you more, in both directions. The challenge isn't to toughen up, but to create softer environments. Adjust lighting, volume, pace. Give yourself recovery time after crowded spaces. Let music, nature, or quiet mornings become your balance. You don't need to be less sensitive to survive. You just need safer rhythms to thrive. Sensitivity isn't fragility, it's finely tuned awareness, a different kind of strength. 11. Pattern D-game. Creativity, connecting invisible dots. Your empathy and imagination often work together. You don't just feel, you translate. You sense patterns between emotions, people, and meaning. Psychologists call this pattern-based creativity, driven by an active default mode network, the part of your brain that connects unrelated ideas. That's why metaphors, songs, or sudden insights arrive in flashes. But it can be overwhelming when every thought links to another. Every emotion becomes a thread you want to follow. The way to anchor your creativity is to give it form. Write it down, sketch it, record it. Creation is containment. When your ideas have a place to live, your mind finally rests. You don't have to hold the storm when you can turn it into art. 12. Existential curiosity, the endless why. You don't stop at what happens, you ask what it means. Time, love, loss, purpose, they all stir. Questions that keep you awake at night. Psychologists call this existential curiosity, a deep mental drive to understand life itself. It's beautiful, but it can feel heavy when answers don't arrive. The healing isn't in silencing the questions, but reshaping them. Instead of why is life like this, ask, how can I live meaningfully within it? You'll find purpose not in grand revelation, but in ordinary acts, helping, creating, speaking truth, showing up. Meaning grows quietly through what you do, not what you solve. 13. High tolerance. For ambiguity, living with open questions. You can sit inside uncertainty without forcing closure. Psychologists call this high ambiguity tolerance a sign of emotional maturity. It means you can hold two truths at once, that life can be unfair and still beautiful, that people can love you and still hurt you. But even for deep thinkers, ambiguity can ache. You want answers, yet peace often means accepting that some won't come. The healing is gentle surrender, learning to rest in not yet. The unknown isn't emptiness, it's potential. Every mystery you survive expands your capacity for grace. 14. Narrative identity. The story that defines you. You make sense of life by turning it into story. Every moment becomes part of a larger arc. Who you were, who you're becoming. Psychologists call this narrative identity, the way your brain links events into meaning. It's how deep thinkers find coherence in chaos. But sometimes, your story can become a trap, a loop of why did that happen, or what does it say about me? The healing lies in editing with compassion. Let your story evolve. You're not defined by what hurt you, but by how you understood it. The meaning of your past is not fixed. It grows as you do. 15. Aesthetic sensitivity, feeling beauty too deeply. Beauty moves you in ways others can't explain. A song, a line of poetry, a single color, they stir something spiritual inside you. Psychology calls this aesthetic sensitivity, a heightened emotional and sensory response to art and nature. You don't just see beauty, you feel it in your chest. But deep perception has a cost. You feel loss, nostalgia, and melancholy tied to beauty, a sense that everything lovely is fleeting. The healing is allowing transience to be sacred. Let beauty pass through you without trying to hold it. The cherry blossom falls, the song ends, the light fades, and that's what makes it beautiful. Sensitivity to beauty isn't sadness, it's gratitude in disguise. 16. Nonconformity and independence, the free mind. You've never been good at pretending. The rules that don't make sense to you, the everyone does it logic they've always felt hollow. Some might have called you stubborn or difficult, but psychology calls it nonconformity, an independent mind guided by inner conviction rather than social approval. It's a beautiful strength, but it can be lonely. The world often rewards those who follow, not those who question. Yet your difference isn't distance, it's clarity. You don't need to belong everywhere. You only need a few spaces where truth isn't too heavy and honesty isn't too much. Those are the rooms where your spirit can breathe. 17. Moral and emotional authenticity, the soul's compass. You can feel dishonesty even when no one says a word, a tone too sharp, a smile too practiced. That high social perception paired with strong inner values, your moral compass at work. You live by integrity, not convenience. But truth doesn't have to cut. It can also heal. Compassionate honesty is your quiet strength, saying what's real without breaking what's human. When you can be truthful without judgment, firm without hardness, you stop trying to win arguments and start building understanding. That's not moral superiority. That's emotional maturity. 18. Moral imagination, the vision of a better world. You don't just see the world as it is, you see how it could be. That's moral imagination, the ability to picture a kinder, fairer version of reality. You see possibility in people, even when they can't see it in themselves. But that vision can feel heavy, because the more you understand what goodness could look like, the more painful it is to watch the world fall short of it. You ache, not because you're naive, but because you care. Still, you're not here to save everyone. You're here to embody what you believe in, to live as proof that compassion can exist quietly, steadily, without fanfare. Every small act of integrity, a kind word, a patient gesture, an honest moment, is moral imagination made real. 19. Selective social bandwidth, fewer but deeper. You were never built for surface-level connection. Small talk drains you. You crave depth conversations that mean something. People who feel like presence rather than noise. That's selective social bandwidth, the tendency to invest emotional energy where it truly matters. Some may mistake it for coldness, but it's actually discernment. You don't avoid people, you choose carefully. The right people are the ones who make silence feel safe, who don't ask you to shrink to fit. Your love doesn't perform, it listens, remembers, and stays. In a loud world, that's a rare and sacred kind of connection. 20. Cognitive flexibility, the mind that adapts. For a long time, your mind wanted answers, clean lines, clear meanings, final conclusions. But life kept refusing to fit neatly into them. That's when you began to understand cognitive flexibility, the ability to think in movement, to adapt without losing center. It's what allows you to hold multiple truths at once. That pain and growth can coexist, that love can be imperfect and still real, that you can be strong and still need rest. This flexibility is not weakness, it's wisdom. It means you no longer break every time the world shifts. You bend, breathe, and adjust, like a tree that survives the storm, not by resisting, but by moving with the wind. The healing here is simple but profound. Stop demanding that life makes sense in one voice. Let it speak in harmony, even when the notes are dissonant. 21. Existential resilience, the strength of meaning. There's a unique kind of resilience that belongs to deep thinkers, not the kind built from denial or toughness, but from meaning. Psychologists call it existential resilience, the ability to face life's uncertainty without losing purpose. You've learned that pain doesn't always need a silver lining to matter. Sometimes its meaning isn't in what it gives you, but in how it changes you. You've stopped asking, why did this happen to me? And started asking, what can I grow from this? That question changes everything. It turns chaos into clarity. It turns loss into understanding. It turns suffering into depth. This is not naive optimism, it's mature hope. You've stopped needing everything to be good to find what's true. You've realized that even in the hardest moments, awareness itself is a form of grace, the quiet strength to keep seeing clearly even when it hurts. 22. Awareness as peace, the mind coming home. Eventually you stop searching for the fix. You realize you were never broken, just finely attuned. Your thoughts were never your enemy, they were simply trying to protect you. And slowly, awareness stops feeling like noise and starts feeling like silence again. This is what it means to come home to your own mind. Not to silence it, but to listen differently, without panic, without judgment, without rush. You begin to see thoughts as passing weather, not permanent identity. Emotions as messages, not mistakes. Awareness becomes peace the moment you stop fighting it. Because peace isn't found in escaping the depth, it's found in learning how to float within it. You no longer seek stillness by force, you find it by trust. The world still moves, the mind still speaks, but you no longer drown in the noise. You let it flow through you like wind through open hands. You've learned to live with awareness not as tension, but as tenderness. You used to think you were too much, too aware, too sensitive, too deep. Now you see that this depth was never a flaw. It was your way of seeing truth, your form of love, your quiet way of being awake. Awareness is not about control. It's about connection to life, to others, to yourself. It's knowing when to think, when to feel, and when to simply be. So breathe. You've made it this far not because you've learnt how to shut your mind off, but because you've learnt how to listen to it with kindness. You're not fragile, you're finely tuned. You're not distant, you're discerning. And the same mind that once overwhelmed you is now the one that steadies you. Because in the end, depth doesn't mean drowning. It means seeing life as it truly is, layered, luminous, alive. And when you can finally see it that way without judgment, without fear, that's not overthinking, that's peace. There's a quiet contradiction that lives inside every deep thinker. The more you understand, the harder it becomes to rest. Depth is both a blessing and a burden. A light that reveals everything, but leaves no shadow to hide in. You see beauty more vividly than most, yet you also feel pain in sharper detail. You don't just live through moments, you study them, turn them over in your mind, and carry them long after they've passed. It's not that you want to think so much, it's that your mind doesn't know how to stay at the surface. To think deeply is to stand between two worlds, one where silence feels like home and another where connection feels necessary. You crave meaning, yet meaning often exhausts you. You crave people, yet people can overwhelm you. The same mind that builds understanding can also build cages of thought. You analyze what others ignore, feel what others dismiss, and because of that, you often see too much, both the beauty and the ache of being human. That's the paradox of a deep mind. The gift that helps you see clearly also makes you feel deeply. Psychologists call this cognitive emotional integration, the ability to think and feel at the same time without splitting apart. Most people live on one side or the other, logic or emotion. But deep thinkers live in the overlap. You hold both truths, reason and feeling, in the same hand. And that tension can be tiring. You want to be wise, but you also want to be free. You want to understand, yet you long for peace. Sometimes the only way to find peace is to stop trying to make perfect sense of everything. Not every feeling has to be explained. Not every question needs an answer. Awareness, after all, is not your enemy. It's your first step toward healing. The moment you stop wrestling your thoughts and start observing them, they begin to soften. The moment you allow yourself to feel emotion without becoming it, you begin to grow. The goal isn't to silence your mind, it's to make peace with it. You don't have to turn it off, you just have to learn how to listen differently. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That's what deep thinkers do. They walk into the dark, not to suffer, but to see. But light brings heat, and truth brings grief. Every realization burns away a little illusion, and that pain is part of awakening. You can't grow without shedding something, a belief, an expectation, a version of yourself. Awareness can hurt, but it also frees you. With time, something shifts. Your depth stops feeling heavy and starts feeling steady. Your sensitivity turns into understanding, your curiosity into compassion, your awareness into calm presence. You no longer carry your mind like a burden, you use it as a bridge. You stop needing every thought to be resolved. You stop demanding every feeling to make sense. You begin to live not just with your depth, but from it. And when that happens, thinking deeply no longer feels like drowning, it feels like floating. You still see everything, but now with gentleness. You let the world move through you instead of trying to hold it all. You realize that peace isn't the absence of thought, but the acceptance of it. The quiet trust that you can face what comes and still stay whole. So breathe. You were never meant to quiet your mind completely, only to guide it toward peace. Your awareness isn't too much. It's your way of seeing the world clearly. You're not lost in thought, you're finding your way home through it. Because in the end, depth isn't about knowing everything, it's about seeing life as it truly is, raw, complex, and beautifully alive. If you've made it this far, you probably know what it means to live with a mind that doesn't rest, a mind that feels too much, notices too deeply, and never stops searching for meaning. You've spent years trying to quiet it, to make yourself smaller, to blend in with a world that rewards simplicity over depth. But maybe you were never meant to blend in. Maybe your depth is the very thing that's meant to wake others up. Being a deep thinker isn't about being smarter or more serious, it's about being aware. You see what most people rush past, the flicker of sincerity in someone's eyes, the ache hidden in a laugh, the way beauty and loss are always holding hands. You live in a world that moves fast, but your mind moves inward. That can make you feel like you don't belong, but what if belonging was never the point? What if you were meant to understand, not just to exist? Psychology calls this metacognitive awareness, the ability to think about your own thinking. But what science defines, your soul already knows. Awareness isn't a flaw. It's a form of love, because when you understand something deeply, you care for it differently. You listen longer. You hurt more honestly. You notice what deserves to be saved. So don't run from your depth. Don't water yourself down just to be easier to hold. Let your thoughts stretch. Let your empathy reach. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who can see clearly and feel fully. You were never too much, just misunderstood by those still afraid of their own depth. So breathe, rest in your awareness. Because this isn't the burden of thinking too deeply, it's the privilege of being fully awake. And if something in these words felt like it saw you, if for a moment you felt understood, then stay a while. Subscribe, not to fix your mind, but to walk with it. Because here, we don't rush to change who we are. We learn to understand it, one quiet thought at a time.